Bentrovati, grazie per essere qua. Oggi siamo qui per parlare un po' di esseri umani. Iniziamo con il nostro ospite. Io ho un'ammirazione spropositata per Tomas e gli sono molto grata per essere venuto, quindi intanto lo invito qui sul palco, Tomas Chamorro-Premuzic. Chi è Tomas? È uno psicologo del lavoro, è il capo dell'innovazione di manpower a livello mondo, è professore in un sacco di università, è un pensatore, un filosofo. Allora, Tomas, are humans still needed? C'è ancora bisogno degli esseri umani?
Okay, we start with a very light question, eh? Well, okay. If I think about this, are humans still needed? Okay, first, we are probably not the most objective species to answer the question.
Because
Why don't you ask other species of the animal kingdom or living entities in the planet that we're destroying? They're probably going to say, no, please stop. So from our perspective, I think we're not objective. Secondly, which humans? I think even for humans, the world would be better if there were fewer of some kinds and more of others. So, I wouldn't put all humans in the same bag or bucket. And now if we get to the more mundane things of, I think humans need humans. So long as there's one, you have to have others. Otherwise, it's like these very, bad science fiction movies with Will Smith is the last person in the world and all of that. So if you have one, you need more. And if you have more, you need to organize themselves or ourselves in some way. And I would say that at the very tactical and concrete level of what you probably meant with the question, which is, do we need humans at work or humans in the loop? Today, yes. I mean, there's, very boring, but again, factual statistics. Since the digital revolution started in the late 90s, unemployment levels have decreased pretty systematically everywhere. Job openings have increased. So, technology destroys very, very few jobs. It creates many, many new jobs. 60% of the jobs that exist today didn't exist in 1950. And this will probably repeat itself or accelerate. But to ensure that humans keep adding value to work and society, we need to develop more dimensions of ourselves and become not a more predictable and boring, exaggerated version of ourselves, but a more complex and richer version of ourselves. So, by the way, nobody calls me a guru, so I feel bad with that, right? And actually, when I took the assessment, multi-me, guru didn't come out, so that's just your impression.
You had human.
Everybody must take multi-me because it is amazing, and this is what this is about, discovering what underutilized dimensions of potential you have. Now they're going to be very important because what got you here won't get you there, and in order to adapt to the exciting new future of work, you need to use all the tools in your toolkit, including, your friendship competencies, your father or mother or parental competencies. In fact, most of the things that will make you successful in your career have nothing to do with the stuff that your resume says. So I appreciate, a lot of us spend a lot of time and money studying. Doesn't matter, Soon, and this is the opportunity with AI to go beyond these credentials and try to understand people for what they really can do and the complex and diverse humans they are.
Ma gli esseri umani hanno un problema. Sono molto complessi, molto molto complessi. Quindi la mia domanda è: come facciamo a effettivamente utilizzare questa complessità?
So I think first we have to understand ourselves, because it is true that humans are very complex, but not in the way that they typically think about themselves, right? So if you ask 100 people, what are you like? 90 will tell you, oh, I'm really complex, very difficult to predict, and very interesting. None of those things are actually true, except in their own mind. But at the same time, people optimize the world for routine, efficiency, and predictability. Look, I give you a very simple, real example. How many people here, raise your hand, use the autocomplete function in emails? So you start to write an email to somebody, and it completes the sentence, and you go, yes, how many?
Quanti di voi usano la funzione di autocomplete nelle email?
So we are surrounded by metaphysical philosophers here. Or
That's why they're here.
Or
This is
exactly.
this is a selection.
No,
Le
but,
persone
you
in
know,
questa stanza non sono un campione medio, posso dirlo. Cioè, se no
I
non
do
sareste
it
qui.
probably 60% of the times, which tells me that, you know, I'm waiting for the next version of AI that can email people without even me knowing, and probably their AI will respond, and then AI talks to AI, and then we automate email, and we save, you know, 30% of our week. You can do the same now. You know, Microsoft has a version, a plugin for Teams that lets you be in meetings without being there. It can even participate in meetings. I love it. I'm using it, you know, early adopter. But every time, every hour I save, I'm studying, I'm writing, I'm thinking, and, you know, I don't know if it's productive, but for me, it's very rewarding. And my interventions, when I talk to humans, are analog interventions in the real world. So, look, it's complex to understand people, and it's very difficult to do it without tools, which is why you need good assessments, why AI. I'm basically a psychologist by training. When I was doing my PhD, I had to stay the weekends in the university, pay people money, student money, to come to a lab, and maybe on a good weekend I tested 30 people. And, you know, a lot of them were students, they were tired, hungover, and then I analyzed the data. And since the digital revolution began, we don't need any more research. You know, we have more data than we can analyze on humanity, all of our tendencies, desires, interests, etc. And of course, we are complex, but I think we have the responsibility to use this technology and this data to make people self-aware and to explain to them that certain elements of their complexity are underutilized career weapons and maybe even tools to increase their happiness, their purpose, etc., while others should be kept very far away from everybody, you know? This idea that you should bring your whole self to work, for example, is very stupid. You know, certain aspects of yourself are, you know, maybe for your husband, wife, close friends. We need to train ourselves to strategically leverage the right aspects of our identity and our personality in the right places. If you go around the office thinking that everybody is interested in everything you think and everything you feel, and you know that they're really interested in you broadcasting and all of your thoughts, and that the secret to being a good leader or a good employee is to behave in a way that follows your intuition, your instincts, and goes with the gut feel without any censorship, inhibition, or constraint. I mean, that's basically what psychopaths do, you know? So it requires training and a lot of social skills to not just be aware of all of the aspects of yourself and identity, but to bring the correct ones in the right place. And of course, you have to do it in a way that seems genuine to others, which requires a lot of acting. And, you know, so social skills is where the action is, and they're going to become more and more important, especially as machines seem to copy and develop many things. You know, there was a recent study published by MIT that showed that doctors in top hospitals in Massachusetts outsource communication to patients to ChatGPT. Patient satisfaction went up 40%. When they weren't talking to doctors, they were talking to a chatbot, right?
Okay.
And so, you know, AI is not just pushing us to develop intellectually and to develop expertise, but also to harness the human and humane skills that people will crave. Because you know, if AI gets better at faking humanity as a whole, then your first question becomes really, really important. And critics of AI say, okay, you know, it can do these things, but there's no indication that it can acquire or demonstrate empathy, emotional intelligence, self-awareness. You know, we haven't seen even generative AI show curiosity, creativity, sense of humor. That might be right, but the reality is most humans don't show any of these things either.
Detto che è
But
cinico.
we should try. We should try. And, you know, this is, I think, a wake-up call. So, final point in digression, I remember when I spent some time too long studying Freud and psychoanalysis, you know, there was this very narcissistic statement that Freud made about his work. And, you know, in psychoanalysis, he said, it is the third narcissistic wound to humanity. To know, he said, that most of our motives, our desires, and our drivers are out of our control. They happen as this unconscious monster inside you that is, you know, driving it, which is, of course, incorrect, not backed up by science. But anyway, it was a nice story. He said it's the third one. The first one is the realization that the Earth is not the center of the universe. And the second one is the realization that we descend from apes and we're not, you know, a unique. Third one is this. I think AI could be the fourth. The realization that even thinking, for a long time, we were confidently saying, I think, therefore I am, is the only unquestionable. We can outsource thinking to machines, and we might be in this position that we have to really work very hard to find something that is uniquely human. I have faith in humanity, and I think we can adapt, but this should be an uncomfortable realization and a wake-up call, because otherwise, if all the time we save, we waste on TikTok and Instagram, and we outsource all the thinking, etc., and AI can do this, then I'm not sure if humans are still needed. But, you know, if you don't like reality, then we have an opportunity to change it or change ourselves. As I don't remember that I wrote that quote, but it's a nice quote about, you know.
Quelli della mia generazione, sono un po' più vecchia di te, sono cresciuti pensando che si dovesse indossare la divisa del lavoro. Sono cresciuti pensando che fosse giusto e efficace portare al lavoro solo alcuni aspetti e tirare su proprio una barriera. Psicologicamente si chiama role transitioning, no? La transizione da un ruolo all'altro avviene praticamente cambiando abito. Questo oggi non solo non è più possibile, perché la tecnologia ha rotto completamente queste barriere, quindi non sarebbe possibile neanche volendo più questo cambio d'abito, ma è anche uno spreco, perché questo cambio d'abito è quello che oggi ci fa lasciare altrove non tanto e non solo quello che ci serve, ma anche quello che ci salva. Come possiamo fare per cambiare, per fare spazio effettivamente a ciò che oggi ci serve e ci salva?
Look, I think the reality is that this technology today, even though everybody is making apocalyptic claims, and you showed the time cover, right? Of end of humanity and all that. We don't even know where it will end. This is like the dial-up phase of AI, is the very beginning, and it will get very, very fast. Like last week, OpenAI announced they will have like an app store, like an iOS app store for all the generative AI developers. So imagine, you know, it's like we're talking about ChatGPT is one. Imagine all the APIs, the applications. You know, I looked at a demo 2 days ago of a startup that basically launched 3 months ago, and they already have a product that predicts using public records of judges in the US with 85% accuracy how the sentences go. So, you know, think about disruption in an area. I'm talking corporate lawsuits and criminal. Okay? And that shows the influence of the judge, political orientation, of the plain suit and plain fit and victim, gender, race. So we don't even know this. What's true is that at the moment, the commercial applications of this technology are very superficial. they're basically trying to improve productivity, which improved between 2000 and 2008, but then stagnated when social media started. Probably because we don't measure productivity correctly. For some people, it's just total output, which at some point, has to stop going up. And for the ones that measure it correctly or define it correctly, which is output divided by input. So if you're better at playing volleyball than me, it should take you less time to, do something, learn how to do serve or certain moves. So the more talented you are, the less effort and time you should spend to achieve the same results. I think if you measure productivity correctly, output might be the same. Input has gone down, but we're not quantifying the time people actually spend working. We measure the time they are pretending to work, or the time that they're supposed to be working, or the time we pay them to work, which is why experiments of the 4-day week are so controversial. Because people are like, yeah, but then, why should I pay you? A lot of CEOs tell me, well, we're already paying them for 4 days, in effect, which is true, right? But then maybe that is the benefit of technology, and that's why, going back to the serving things, we should consider or entertain the possibility that we are creating these tools not to advance the market capitalization of tech firms or to advance the agenda of capitalism or make investors richer, but to live better, more fulfilling, and more interesting lives. But I think that also requires a certain mindset change and maturity shift in employees and everybody that needs to abandon this notion that work is a source of so many things, like that it should provide us with meaning, with a sense of purpose, with values, with our true north. This idea that if you are experiencing somewhat, some degree of spiritual unfulfillment or disengagement in your work for 2 weeks, you should quit or you should reconsider. It's ridiculous. For the most part of our evolution, work was basically that, work. You get paid for it because otherwise you wouldn't do it. And 100 years ago, which is a very short, time while back, people didn't return from, an average worker didn't come back from the assembly line or the factory, and when their spouse said, how was your day at the office today, Riccarda, would say, well, it was okay, but I didn't experience a sense of calling. What about all the other things that life offers? Family, friends, hobbies, activities, excitement. So I think humanism has led to an existential vacuum because we put ourselves in the center of everything. So after we killed God and we, debunked religion and everything, including like commerce and, sports, community, friendship, family, everything is downgraded. Now, and I'm sure if we have HR, marketing, or corporate leaders today, you know that you are under so much pressure when you want to hire somebody to tell them that they're almost joining a cult. Come here and, we will unlock your potential, we will elevate you as a human. Yes, we offer sushi chef and free massage and laundry, and you can work from anywhere you want, and you can do anything you want, and you're your own boss. But if you have any spiritual doubts that this is your true calling, you're a bastard and you have to go away and you shouldn't wait, you should be ashamed. I mean, it's just completely unrealistic. So I think we have to lower our expectations about what work, including the technological age of work, can do for us, and rediscover some lost pleasures. Of course, in Italy, you have a great life, so what I'm saying is more relevant in Japan and, Canada and America and, than here. But, even if you look at historical patterns, even here, there is a globalization effect whereby careers, I guess, and your work is supposed to be an integral part of your identity. So I'm a Googler, I'm a Facebooker, I'm a, it's like, what does it even mean? whenever, you know Lululemon, the brand? Does anybody know? Has anybody walked into a Lululemon? Very nice, overpriced athleisure or yoga. I don't do yoga, but I like the clothes. But I go to the stores because it's like you're joining a cult. You enter, hi, how are you? Everybody's possessed. They would work for free. They're stretching and doing yoga while talking to you. And they don't want to quit. And they, you know, there's nothing else to their identity or their self than that. Which is the definition, the Lacanian definition, sorry, I'm digressing, of psychotic. When you have found the one marker that represents with 100% of accuracy who you are, as opposed to acknowledging your multi-me and understanding that complexity includes the negotiation between these different things. How can myself as a son be, you know, a nice boss that also kicks ass and makes money?
Sempre di più nella nostra interazione con le macchine, con internet fondamentalmente, noi veniamo identificati per alcuni elementi e quegli elementi vengono replicati, enfatizzati, curati. È il concetto di intelligenza artificiale, no? Identificare il pattern e andare poi a ripeterlo. Quindi in questo essere molte cose che ha un beneficio, in realtà noi stiamo combattendo contro qualcosa di la cosiddetta automatizzazione. Come facciamo?
Yeah. So you're right, but this happens because AI, which is just, you know, computer code, but the way that these algorithms are optimized is, you know, they're very efficient at exploiting our laziness. This is why, you know, things that should be very complex, like your political beliefs and ideology and orientation, right? You know, it would require you a big time investment to read, understand, talk, etc. It's a lot faster and easier to just say, okay, I'm going to let myself and technology define myself in this specific way. And therefore, I will only consume articles, news, stories, and relate to people that are exactly in that. And you basically minimize cognitive dissonance and conflict to your system of beliefs. So so the trick that AI engages in, there's a chapter on this, which is almost like a jiu-jitsu move, is to basically standardize our behaviors. Again, going back to whenever I'm too lazy to write to you the email and doing that, I trade off gains in efficiency for complexity. But that doesn't mean that I couldn't have thought, paused, and, you know, done things that in a way, AI is a call to action, or is an invitation for us to try to work on our internal diversity and complexity, and to actually inject some creativity in the way we act and live. We basically need to become less predictable. We can do it, but all of these, certainly all of these platforms where we interact with AI, minimize thinking. Netflix only shows me 5 movies that it wants me to watch. I love movies. So unfortunately, I will waste an hour and a half searching for all the others.
And then you don't watch the movie.
Arguing with my wife. And then I said, let's just go to sleep. You know, it's... So, you know, next time I was, okay, listen, just pick the first one. And the same applies to news stories. Riccarda shares something, I reshare it. Why should I read it, you know? And the same applies to how people vote. You know, we have... So it's not that you can design... This is a thought experiment. You can redesign AI to promote open-mindedness in humans. Think of it as not open AI, but open-minded AI. So imagine if you retweak the algorithms of Netflix, Amazon, Twitter, LinkedIn, Tinder even, to not show us or recommend us stuff that we will like, but stuff that we will really dislike, but we should consider to become more open-minded. You can easily do this. It would lead to a mass exodus of people away from these platforms and onto a different one that gives us what we want, which is not what we need. So, so we basically love our biases. We're very proud of our biases, and AI is very good at shielding us from any information that contradicts or refutes or question our biases. That's why we love it. And that's why when if you change the settings of your Twitter feed, or you start, so whenever I'm in the US, in the Midwest, I make a point before going to sleep of putting certain news channels that are at the complete opposite side of my political spectrum. It's very traumatic and disturbing, and then I fall asleep, but I have nightmares, and but it's a very important exercise. How many people do you think, what percentage of the population identifies as open-minded? In surveys, you ask people, are you open-minded? Yes or no?
All of them.
95%. Probably the 5% that don't are more open-minded. And what is the only common characteristic that open-minded have? They all hang out with people who are exactly like them. So AI is very efficient and effective at exploiting this weakness that we have, but we can fight it, and we should. And I think there are career benefits. We were talking just before about how much easier it is for a manager to hire people that are exactly like them. First of all, they're all the same, so if one person likes something, they all do. Secondly, it's like the best subliminal narcissistic tribute you can pay to yourself. How is your team? They are amazing. And this person especially is really, really good, my successor, but they're like your mini-me, not multi-me, your mini-me. So imagine you start to really think about introducing diversity and inclusion, and we have here, I'm seeing the DE&I slide there that Lucia is going to talk about. It's such a problem. Like, I really mean, I don't mean like gender balance, or I mean people from different social class. I want somebody who really loves Trump and somebody who really loves Biden to work together, and Bernie Sanders. I want people who disagree on guns, veganism, abortion, because I want a very diverse team. And I want, cognitive diversity and culture add-on is, I don't think the best manager in the world today can get this group of people to collaborate. At most, they will spend 90% of the time eliminating violence and attacks. There wouldn't be microaggressions. There will be, somebody would get shot. We know who would shoot of this group, right? So it's a lot easier to just hire on your own image and don't disrupt the status quo. But leadership is having an argument with the status quo.
We will have now workshops, faremo 3 gruppi di lavoro con 3 tematiche, che sono il benessere, il well-being delle persone, poi facciamo un gruppo di lavoro sulla cosiddetta DEI, che noi chiamiamo identità, ma anche sul concetto, altro concetto fortissimo in questo periodo, i talenti. E la mia domanda, my question for you is, how will AI impact?
So how will AI impact each of these 3?
Yeah,
is the question. Yeah, I love the idea of the identity workshop. Come here, in 40 minutes you will find out who you really are. I'm scared to join. So, well, I think, look, like, first as a kind of mini summary of some of the things we discussed, which is, I think, basically the most interesting challenge, I think, about being a human is to try to reduce the tensions between the different elements of ourselves and to really work out who we really are. And who we really are, there are people who, like the Beatles in the 60s, went to India to find themselves in an ashram. Now, I'm sure people in the audience go to Costa Rica to do an ayahuasca retreat, etc. To find out who you really are, you don't have to look inside, you have to look outside. you have to ask others and you have to get feedback. That's why feedback is so important when you're developing people. So I think AI, actually, I see AI, maybe this is my psychological bias, as a new instrument or mirror where we can see ourselves. And I think that's why some of the backlash against AI is there, because we don't like what we see often. When we see, we are biased, we are boring, we are predictable, we are not creative, we are sexist and all these things. But I think for those of you who have the courage and who are interested in this thing called reality, including yourself, AI presents an opportunity to improve our self-understanding and identity. Talent is critical. We live in a world where simultaneously employers complain they can't find the right talent and employees complain they can't find the right employer. So I think if we stop looking for talent in the same old places, in the same wrong way, and we allow AI to provide a new, less biased lens into who people are and what they can do, we'll have more sustainable talent and talent-centric organizations. By the way, AI could be used to sanitize performance systems and measurements so that you reduce the gap between those who are at the top of our organization and those who actually add value, which is why there is resistance to using AI. That's some talent. And well-being, it's counterintuitive, right? Because yeah, we are becoming these time rats and 5, 10 minutes, whatever. We are becoming like productivity machines and robots. But also, AI can help us monitor our well-being in a better way. I'm sure people use, I use my wearable ring. Yesterday, we had a late event and dinner here in Milan, so I know exactly what my sleep score is going to be this morning. So I don't look at my phone because I'm ashamed, guilty that I ate and drank too much. So, but I understand myself and my system, and I have friends who are using wearables in coaching, even with investment bankers, to help them optimize their decisions based on, if you monitor how you exercise, how you sleep, how you, relax, how tense you are, all of these things, and all of that, it's like basically, again, it's part of identity, but it can help us improve our well-being and wellness. Unfortunately, a lot of these things preach to the choir or to the converted, and it's very hard to scale, but which contributes to inequality. But anyway, fundamentally, AI is a diagnostic tool. It can help us understand ourselves and our interactions with others better, contributing to identity, talent, and well-being. And as you know, Riccarda, I'm not an AI enthusiast. No. The book is very negative, but I want to highlight the good part. And just one final comment, I promise, which is on innovation and the difficulties to bring it in organization. I really think innovation is like a virus. And the ideal way to change and improve things in organizations is to hide the symptoms of the virus. Because as soon as people, organizations, leaders realize they have been infected by the innovation virus and things, there's going to be a lot of resistance. So it has to be, a kind of non-symptomatic virus. You have to gently infect organizations with the change back, pretending that it's not there, until the wrong people leave and the ones who stay realize it and can adapt. So I think,
it's a very
basically the parasitic leaders need to leave, so the viruses that we acquire boost the immune system of the company.
Ok, did you take note? L'avete segnato questo perché non è male? Grazie Thomas, un applauso anche. Stay here, but